Well, my dear, we need to say something to alleviate some fear. That's one of our major jobs. Because, China had a plan to take over America. You know what the number one plan was? Same as the British Pilgrim Society: put everyone into chaos and fear. Because when you're in fear, you can't think straight. And then perpetrate so many lies that the lies outweigh the truth so that people didn't believe, oh, well, the majority of people believe this lie, so I believe it. Now, why do I say this? Tariffs on China. Any economist who doesn't know that tariffs are the most powerful economic weapon ever created, and that they're stupid if they think that Trump's tariffs are going to do anything except kill globalism. Globalism was all centered on China because of that jerk in the CFR, the Council on Foreign Relations, Kissinger, said years ago he sold us out to China in 1974 when Nixon said he was going to open up trade with China. He went to China and he said he was going to make them most favored nation trading status. When he was kicked out and Ford took over in 1974, we gave them most favored trading. Well, why would we do that? They were our enemy then. They're our enemy now. Now, what I'm going to say, you may not believe, but this is the truth. We don't just allow people from other countries to put illegal tariffs on us, but then we give them USAID money. We give them World Bank money. We give them International Monetary Fund money. We give them World Trade Organization money. In other words, when you see those pictures of China and Shanghai and Hong Kong and all those buildings, people say, oh my gosh, China, they're such great inventors. They're so No, they've stolen every patent from everyone, because when you send manufacturing to China, what do you think they do with it? Of course they steal it. They had to steal it. You gave it to them. And then what do? They make one little tiny change in it, and now it's proprietary and they own it. Any time we've ever asked China to make anything, of course they reverse engineered it. You'd have to be stupid not to understand that. We built those cities. That's our technology. China has collapsed already, and all you have to do is look at the real statistics. China is collapsing. Their population's collapsing. Their economy's collapsing. Their trade is collapsing. The Belt and Road completely collapsed. There's not one country in the world that's standing behind China today, is there? Not one. Not one is standing with China. They've demanded to everyone that they ripped off, and they made contracts. Remember, all contracts are with the Chinese Central Committee, okay? So in other words, every single contract is invalid because there's no such thing as an independent Chinese company. Every one of them is subsidized by the United States of America. Period. There's no such thing as an invention in China that they invented. For instance, when Trump came into his first administration, what was one of the first things he found out? He found out that our entire military was so infested with Chinese bad semiconductors, bad chips with 0-day programming in them, with the Lenovo computers, which when they came onto the market, they were so cheap everybody bought them. Yeah, and then they were going to be connected to Huawei. What happened with those in Britain? They used them to spy on everyone, and then they blackmailed everybody in Britain. Everyone had any money was blackmailed by tens of thousands of people in China that were set up to spy through Huawei, spy through every device they have. I just don't mean to pick on one of their devices. All devices coming from China are programmed against America. What didn't you know about that? And they are the number one promoters of what I call fake technological utopian nonsense. We are not going to go towards a super AI. As I told you the other day when I talked to Dr. Al, algorithm, he says there's no AI. There's no super AI. There never will be. There's a set and there's subsets. That's all there is. Folks, most everything you're told about technology is a lie. And why? Because it is supporting a fake religion called scientific materialism. I like to call it scientism. Scientism is a religion. All isms have failed, including the ones like Catholicism and Buddhism and Islam. Every ism you can name. Because why? It is an ideal, but it is not real. It cannot manifest. There's never been a true communism. There's never been a true fascism. There's never been a true capitalism. There's never been a true democracy, except for in one case that I know of, and that's only in one city-state, and that was in Athens. They would go into the forum, and they would, at the end, after they heard the speakers, they would yell a voice acclamation, a voice vote, and then the one person standing at the top determined who yelled louder, and that's how the vote would go. Well, that's what we have as democracy in America. Demented left-wing libtard democracy is people screaming loudly as if their opinion is the only one that counts. And if they don't get their way, they become violent. Because why? Isms don't exist in the physical world. Those are sheer imaginations. Fabianism, all these things, socialism, all complete and absolute failures.
Well, those are faces for Satan, for Satanism. It's just varying degrees. And so when everybody wakes up and realizes this is, good versus evil, we are fighting Satan.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The gates of hell have been opened. The demon spawns have come up. And what do? They run Silicon Valley. They run China. They run the Zionists in Israel. All of these technologies need to be stopped. We need to put a moratorium on creating technology that has not been tested, that does not have the human being's welfare at mind, and that are all built upon nothing more than egotism and greed. Okay? And that's how this age will end, is in the war of all against all. Egotism. So, for instance, do you think Elon Musk and Peter Thiel like each other? No. What did Peter Thiel? But first off, they're fake. They're cardboard cutouts. They didn't invent anything. And what did Peter Thiel say? He said, with technology, there's only one business plan that works, and that's a monopoly. And what he meant by that was a government, a private-public collaboration where he gets the monopoly with absolutely no compliance, with no reporting, with no audits, no nothing. If someone was to audit Elon Musk's these crazy missiles he's sending up into space, and by the way, those are some of the worst CGI I've ever seen. If you believe that nonsense of what Elon Musk is telling you, then you'll believe anything. But that's the whole point. Once you get, and I think now it's probably 75% of everything that comes onto the news is a lie, a gross, disgusting lie, but not just the opposite of the truth, because they figured out a long time ago we'd figure that out, and all we'd have to do is say, oh, whatever you say, it's the opposite. No.
Like the 9-0 vote.
Oh, let's go into that. Tyler turns to me the other day and says, do you see what they did? 9-0, the Supreme Court voted to support going to get the man supposedly mistakenly sent in El Salvadorian prison and bring him back so that he can have a fair trial. First off, he's an invader. He's not a citizen here. We just got through hearing that the head of El Salvador said with Trump, he is a El Salvadorian citizen. And so when she turned and told me this, I said, no, that's not possible, because they just voted, the Supreme Court, that they want all the lower court judges, federal court judges, appellate as well as all the districts, to stop trying to do national injunctions. They can't. They can't do an injunction to anybody that isn't in front of them in the court. And secondly, they cannot put an injunction on the president. That's illegal, especially when it is a defined job that he has as the executive branch that he's carrying out.
Well, to get to the point. The point is this. When it was first reported, it was 9-0, and it was being reported against the president. And that's why we said, why did Thomas and Alito vote for that? But none of us yet had seen the actual statement or whatever that legal paper is. And then it turns out that the media was lying to us for 72 straight hours. It wasn't until today that they finally confessed, no, it was 9-0 in our favor.
So we had told you that this is going to happen across the board. So we're going to see this specifically with the Supreme Court. Now, had they voted 9-0 to bring him back into the country, they'd all have to be impeached, because they had just previously, and a week before that, voted that they have no right whatsoever to make determination about who comes across the border. That is an executive privilege. They can't make judgments about people who aren't citizens. They have no standing. They have no rights. And so we told you this is going to happen. They're going nuts. Every single branch of globalism, which is really directed by the Pilgrim Society, and by the way, in China, they now say that not only is their population decreasing, but that massive amounts of people, millions and millions and millions, tens of millions of people are missing. We told you when they got the new COVID, right? Remember, China said they have a new COVID and that it was wiping people out on a scale 100 times greater than the first one did. Okay? Well, we were never told the truth about how many people died in China to begin with, when the British Pirbright Institute released it on the Chinese and blamed it on the P4 lab. Now, was the P4 lab and crazy bat doctor actually creating synthetic viruses? She was the leader in the world creating it, and we were paying her. Fauci was paying her. These are gain of function, okay? Gain of function is illegal. That is a bioweapon. That's why he farmed it out to, 24 different P4 labs around the world. Where did they get the samples they worked with? From America, from the CDC, working with Barrick in North Carolina, work with the NIH, with CDC. We sent them to the P4 labs, okay? So now what's happening? You got 700 people with measles. That's not measles. That's insane. And those are lies. 2 people died of measles? No, they didn't. They died of a gain of function, reworked measles vaccination, an MMR, okay? Measles, mumps, and rubella. They enhanced it by putting in the messenger RNA, exosome DNA, bad dying DNA, as well as they created a gain of function measles and put it in there. Same exact thing that Bill Gates did with the polio vaccines in Africa and India. 400,000 children died from polio when they didn't even have polio in India. And when the new vaccine came in, that Bill Gates came in, basically provided it for free to kill children. So now they don't call it polio, they call it infantile paralysis disease and other crazy, stupid names. So this isn't measles, folks. This isn't measles. And Bobby Kennedy is an idiot. He's a drug addict. He shouldn't be allowed to walk across the street on his own recognizance. So he comes up and says now, why is it? First off, it's false reporting. 700 people with measles, okay? Who cares? Well, if 700 people have measles, then their measles shots don't work, right? Then stop the measles shot. No, they want to give you another shot to stop the new measles. See where this is going? So Bobby Kennedy, for instance, fluoride. There isn't any fluoride in our water. There's 6 different types of poisonous chemical refuse from mining fluoride. That's where it all came from. Fluoride in this country came from one town that was mining fluoride. It had all this excess chemicals, and they said, well, let's use this for something. So they found out, yeah, it will kill bacteria. It'll kill humans. Are you kidding? So let's put it in the water. But now, of course, they put in much, much, much more than that. There's 6 different types of fluoride byproducts, all of which are poison. All 6 of those are poisonous. So when they lie and they say, oh, we put fluoride in the water, fluoride is harmless, that's a big friggin' lie. So you just have to look to see that the lies are so fantastic. It's just like the chemtrail lies. The president demanded to know who's doing the chemtrails, and it's taken all this time for it to finally come out that they think they know that it's in the NOAA's subsets in a secret black ops weather manipulation. Folks, There's more than one. They have been doing this stuff since the 50s, and they won't stop until they are defunded. Because you could try to prosecute these people, and what they'll say is, no, the Congress voted for this. Here's the law. There's laws allowing all of these things. So you can't do that because it takes too long. You simply defund them because the president can say, as he is now pointing out, we are in multiple states of emergency. And one of them is economic. One of them is environmental. Bingo. That's all it takes. Okay? So let's go back to tariffs. If we just now are seeing, and Tyler just posted on Gab, a whole lot of people in China sending out communications to the rest of the world about what it's like there. Yeah, right. Have you seen that happening before now? No, those people would be killed before now. So how is it that can possibly happen? Because they have so few people. And they're in such desperate straits, they don't have the money to continue to pay tens of thousands of people to scrub WhatsApp, because most of these things are coming out on WhatsApp and other things. They can't scrub it. They can't chase them down fast enough, and so we're getting the truth out of China. And here's a guy walking around one of the largest cities in China, and there ain't nobody there. And it's a normal day, and you see one or two people. How about they're demolishing? Here's what happened. We gave them so many subsidies that they went into the western part of China and built gigantic cities. People wouldn't believe me, but we put it up on so you could see the pictures of them. So they built the most fantastic super apartment complexes you've ever seen in your life. They're demolishing all of them. Billions and billions and billions of dollars were built. No one ever lived in those cities. No one ever lived in them. And when they were done, they had 2.4 apartments for every person in China.
But you haven't seen the latest, I don't think. Because then if you're following me on Gab, you were seeing all of that. That got me curious. Well, where are the people? And I said, well, we did have some depopulation figures coming in for South Korea and North Korea that were pretty bad. Well, turns out China has really been hit. And you've got to see this video later, Douglas. This woman walks us through and says it's not a population of 1.4 billion as reported. It's more like 400 million at most in China. And plus, there's no replacements. So we're looking at the collapse of China. So it's good that we're getting our manufacturing out. And then, okay, buy China. It's gone.
And who did that? That's the British. That's the Pirbright Institute and the Memorial Animal Hospital, both of them right outside of Wuhan. Both of them released it both in water and food and in the air. And so they did it again recently. And what happened? Oh, the United Nations, which we might as well call it the United Nations of Britain, defending China and Russia and all communist and fascist dictators, because that's all it is. They came out, the World Health Organization, and said, oh my gosh, there's a fantastic new pandemic coming out of China. You hear that on one day. A few days later, China won't give us any information. Again, like they did the first time. And what does the World Health Organization say? You get a pass. We're not going to ask. So then later, when it was said again by the people in China that millions and millions of people were dying of this new poison that was perpetrated upon them, then the United Nations says, well, along with Americans, said, we're sending in teams. They wouldn't allow them to come in. Now, I told you how it all started to begin with, and I told you that there were literally untold amounts of Chinese who died. They took giant high-rise apartments, which in China means thousands of people live in those. And you know what they did with them? They locked and chained and barred the doors so those people would stay in there so they wouldn't spread it, and the people were throwing themselves out of these high-rise windows, okay, to their death because they were starving to death. That's what China does to their own people. So what do you think they're going to do to us, folks? So fear, chaos, steal all of our stuff, be a humble little Chinese man says, oh, we built it for you. We're going to send all our students over there to infiltrate your colleges. Now we find out that there's actually police stations all over America. New York City is basically being run by Chinese policemen. All right? This is where it came to. But when Trump took office, let me remind you, the military and all corporations were already taken over by them making things for us which were, I call it poison, but basically they were programmed to work against us. 0 day. Had those things not been removed by Trump within the first literally months of his first administration, he said every military vehicle, craft, every military, everything has to have all semiconductors and all Chinese chips removed from them. Now, that doesn't mean Taiwanese chips, okay? Now, when he removed them, it was because they found out that when they removed them, there was 0 day programming in them. Chinese could have turned off all of our military with one button. And they wanted Huawei to be our 5G so that they could turn off all of our 5G and continue to propagate pulse magnetic fields, 5G, 6G, 7G. When you say 5G, you're actually saying up to 10G because those same exact broadcasters can broadcast those frequencies. And so what were the Chinese doing? Killing us. If you think technology is setting you free, you're stupid. Technology is enslaving you, and you're becoming stupider all the time. You don't think anymore because you allow the machines to do it. You don't feel anymore because why? You are so numbed down, all of us, me included. We're all so numbed down because we see grotesque, extreme violence, sexuality, and stupidity in every broadcast that you get from Hollywood, which, of course, China took over, 1/3 of Hollywood, they say. I think it's much more. China is threatening not to have our movies there. Good. China's threatening this, threatening that. Good. Trump is doing the right thing. They want to raise their tariffs even higher. They had 67%. Oh, but you notice that the Chinese people who are talking on WhatsApp, they've all been told that it's only 30.
But their population is collapsing in the meantime. These are real numbers.
That's why they are no longer efficient at their social credit system. And many of their banks have faltered. Their manufacturing faltered because of the Three Rivers Dam practically collapsed, and downriver of that. Did anyone ever get a report on how many people died from the flooding from the Three Rivers Dam, the largest dam ever made in history, with American concrete, American steel? They drained us completely when they built that. That was on purpose. And so what does China do? Remember, every Chinese company is subsidized. So they don't have to pay taxes. They don't have to pay for the land. They don't have to pay for this stuff. They steal the resources in bad contracts from all over the world, and then they go in and start a war there to destabilize it so they don't have to pay. Okay? Just like India. Do a contract with India. See what happens. See if you ever get paid, okay? You won't. They stretch it out to the point that you may never see the money. Okay, they'll just keep telling you, well, we'll make you some more stuff, and then and then the price of what we owe you will go up, but that's okay because we're making you more stuff, and that's what China did. We'll make everything you want. You want garbage, America? Oh, we'll give you garbage. We'll give you Walmart. And remember, the Walmart was created in Arkansas by the Clintons, and China came in and took over all of Arkansas and many, many, many other places. $1.3 trillion in land they've bought. They bought Hollywood. They buy the concessions for our national parks. They buy everything they can. But here's what happened when this occurrence happened with Japan before. Japan did the same thing. We said, oh, Japan, build the cars for us. You're so clever with your fingers, little people. Build everything for us. And why? They could reverse engineer anything. And so we tried with Japan not to give them patents. Didn't matter. They reverse engineered it. 1 year later, they got something better than we have with proprietary information that they charge us huge tariffs to ship anything over there. So basically, it is an economic war that's been going on for a long, long time, and it needs to end. This is the end of globalism. Now, There are some things that Trump is blind to, unless he's simply manipulating these tech people. Now, people are scared to death that Elon Musk and Peter Thiel and so on and so forth, all these tech people are going to take over. No, they're not. They're all government subsidized. If Trump wanted to collapse Peter Thiel's Palantir, if he wanted to collapse all of Elon Musk's companies, if he wanted to collapse Jeff Bezos' company, he could do it tomorrow, simply taking away the subsidies. Same thing with China. So when Trump wants to raise it to 125% a tariff, that's nothing. All he has to remember, U.S. aid was the best friend of China and Russia. Remember, Hillary Clinton built Skolkovo when Russia did not have the technology to actually even compete against any country in the world. Hillary Clinton went over there and gave them all the technology they needed for supersonic missiles, for the new type of ICBM they have, for everything. That is American technology. If you think for 1 second that the Russians or the Chinese have made any of these new inventions, you're uninformed. It's as simple as that. So what will happen now? Well, he doesn't want to collapse the whole world, but this will collapse the world if they do not get down on their knees, come begging to America and say, we only exist because of you. And we will absolutely fall in line with what you say. China, because they have no experience in capitalism and they're simply horrifying fascists, dictatorial fascists. And by the way, they're even, it's worse than Mao Zedong. Mao Zedong, when he went to technology, basically said, I want all of my Chinese people to build factories to produce things for the West. Okay? Well, when they did that, they basically killed 50 million people. They starved. Do you think Mao Zedong cared? No, he needed to get rid of them. So if you think China cares about the fact that it seems as if they have lost hundreds of millions of people to this recent illness, you're mistaken. They don't care about their people. They couldn't care less about their people. Their people are animals to them. The only thing they care about is other members, high up elites in the Communist Party. That's all they care about. And soon, as I predicted, and it won't be long now, President Xi of China will be gone, and he will be mysteriously killed. Just, I promise you, within a year. And the only reason it'll last a year is because he's going to try to fool everybody. He tried to fool them with fake statistics, fake population numbers, fake gross domestic product. Okay, if they are the number one manufacturer in the world, how come they have 1.4 billion people? Then why do they have half of the GDP of America? Does that make any sense? No, we buy their stuff. They only exist because we buy their stuff. If we boycotted, and people are boycotting China's stuff, but it doesn't matter. You can look all you want. You won't even necessarily know it came from China. But if we boycotted China, in 2 months they would collapse. And the Communist Party would collapse. They'd get a new leader, and the new leader would say, "We're going with the Western way because this is the new 5-year plan of capitalism." So anyway, don't be worried about tariffs. Don't be worried about AI taking over. Don't be worried. First off, if you're getting, as I have said since the 70s, early 70s when I started writing on this, if you're getting any vaccination, you're a fool. So vaccinations are not your friend. This is becoming quite evident by every single day. You'll see 2 or 3 things on the internet where doctors come out and they've proven again and again and again and again and again that what they're telling you from the companies, no, that isn't what it is. And now you get to see so many of the pharmaceutical companies coming to America. They're going to build their drugs here, make them here so that they don't get tariffed. But folks, we just need to reject those things, okay? Just like we need to reject cars from other countries. We need to become pseudo-isolationists and just build in America everything so that we are 100% independent. Now, what is Trump using to smash Canada. Though I just saw a thing where Alberta is considering joining America as the 51st state. They don't want any part of the eastern branch of the Canadians because they're all a bunch of libtards. And with this new guy coming in, what's his, Mark Carney, Carney, Carney. He's a Pilgrim Society, head of the Bank of England. You couldn't get any more corrupt. He isn't a Canadian. He is absolutely a pilgrim. And he is going, if he continues in the same vein that he has, he's going to destroy Canada, but that's okay. We'll take each of the provinces one by one as a new state. No problem. And we will actually capitalize on their resources there, which the Canadians don't do. And I've explained why Canada is such a poor country when, in fact, they have fantastic resources, because Britain can't allow it to happen. Because they knew that if Canada became a superpower, that America would simply absorb them. And if you ask a Canadian or a New Zealander or an Australian, if they take a vow to the king and that they're actually controlled by the monarchy of Britain, they'll all tell you no. That's how brainwashed they are. That's ridiculous. Of course they are. They all take a vow. Carney, the vow of anyone, prime minister, anyone in any of those countries, they take a vow to the king, to the monarchy. So China, Britain wants China to come down. But again, Britain is just lying through their teeth about their own tariffs. And the European Union is our enemy. And that's the reason the Brits got out of the European Union. And the European Union was created for only one purpose, and that's so that George Soros could then do currency manipulation on one currency instead of 30 different countries. But again, 30 countries came together with the Brits the other day to say how they're going to debank their own citizens for $800 billion so they could continue the war in Ukraine. This is the same insanity we've been seeing from these countries since they were created. This is nothing more than barbarism. This is nothing more than vicious, unconquerable Vikings who they say never were conquered, and I don't think they have been. And so you get to see the same old story now with CERN. CERN just said that they did some more experiments. Oh, but before they do the experiment, what do? They go out in front of their statue of Shiva, the god of death, and they all dress up as animals, and they do these ceremonies which are literally demonic. And then what do they say afterwards? Oh, some of the scientists, whistleblowers, are saying that they contacted beings from other dimensions in their recent experiments. There is no CERN, there's no Large Hadron Collider, and that became evident when they demanded to build one 10 times bigger, and then they were told, that's insane. We'll build it 4 times bigger. That's insane. We'll build it 3 times bigger than the one that exists now, which is a lie. And they said that's insane. So they're not going to allow them to steal trillions of dollars more for trying to get to the God particle. The moment of creation is what they say. Those are demon particles. It's the opposite. And if you listen to them, they'll tell you that's what they're doing. We are doing experiments that could blow up the whole earth, is what they'll tell you. We're doing experiments that could open up millions of doors to other dimensions. And then they'll tell you that in the experiments that they have contacted beings. No, these are demons. And why are they contacting demons? Because the scientists doing it are demons. They know there's no collider. They know they're false experiments. So what we need to remember is this will all end on its own once it comes to light. Mold, scum, dissolves in sunlight. And that's what we're doing here. We're bringing you the truth. We're bringing you the antidote. And we're trying to let you know that there is no reason to be fearful. And also the way to attempt to analyze the lies that you're being told. But look, CBS, now Trump is going after them. He's going to sue them. Meta is going to be not sued. They're going to be fined in an antitrust suit, and they'll take away WhatsApp and Instagram from them and give it to somebody else.
That's what they want. And that's what they want, this disgorgement thing. So they'll make more money on that, but they have to have the court order it. And you know who the judge is in this? Jeb Boasberg. So don't tell me they've got something up their sleeve.
Yeah, these are supposed to be randomly assigned cases. How come the last three cases, the biggest cases in the federal courts, all went to the same corrupt judge who was part of the coup d'etat against Trump and was found guilty by his actions, and nothing happened to him. They blamed it on one person who falsely gave him information so that the FISA court could go forward. But remember, the Congress has every year they have to reinstate FISA courts because they're illegal, and they did, and they will continue so. So at this moment, the Signal app that the idiots in the intelligence community that work for Trump were using, those are all spy devices, and if you don't know that, then you don't know anything. Now here's the good news. Science is working. The number one thing after graphene oxide and polyethylene glycol was found to be a spray-on that they could make it paramagnetic, and they could put it in the body, and they could create little nano robots in your body just to see what they could do with them by activating them with precision medicine or with 5G and just seeing how many people they can really mess up with this stuff. That's all those shots were, folks. It's just experimentation on human beings like we're rats. So what's going to happen now? Here's what's going to happen. They're focused on plasma, aren't they? The minute that anyone, any of you listening to this, well, you can study our book on plasma, what's it called? The Mystery of Life Found in Plasma, or you can study the new book on the celestial cosmos, plasma and ethers, or you can study the etheric or the eternal ethers. All three of those books, if you read them and understand them, it dissolves scientism. It dissolves materialistic science. And ultimately, that dissolves globalism, because all of globalism is based upon the false religion of science. So the minute that consciousness rises up and understands that we are created by a spiritual world that is invisible, but that we can see the footprints of that spiritual world, and that it certainly demonstrates intelligent design, far beyond intelligent, it's divine design, then basically science dies. And that's what Steiner said. He said technology will get to the point that it will wrap the earth with a spider web of mechanical gray shadow thinking. That's what happens. All computers are gray shadow thinking. It's not thinking. That's machine intelligence, and it's trying to pull you down into the realms of machine intelligence, which is a subnatural realm made of man-made electromagnetism, which is the opposite of plasma, which is natural electromagnetism. So if you study this and consciousness raises, we can antidote all of these things. And what we're seeing in terms of globalism, the 200-year plan of Cecil Rhodes, which is well underway and very effective in the world right now, it will simply dissolve because of a lack of interest. So all of you who want a vicious vengeance and you want to see lots of people hung for treason and shot or whatever, yeah, they all deserve it. That's true. But that isn't necessarily what's going to stop it. What's going to stop it is when awake people who have consciousness, say no to globalism, no to the British Pilgrim Society's Tavistock manipulation of America, no to the Chinese, no to anybody who wants to take over and destroy America. And that is technology. And so we have to look at these technology giants as evil domestic war actors. But remember, the United States government created those people through Highlands Forum, through In-Q-Tel, through DARPA, through the venture capitalists who do all of these horrible, evil things without it ever being tested on humans. So when humans, just like China, when China finally said, I guess, we have a social credit system, but all of our people are dying because the British came in and killed us with a vaccine that we can't even admit we know is killing our people. And China can't admit that they don't invent this technology. They're given the technology. But they're good at propaganda because they are a British-created communism, just like Russia is a British-created communism. And so as soon as people simply say no, I'm not going to participate. Then the world will change. It is all about consciousness. And don't think that you as one person are insignificant. That is a lie. You are the hieroglyph of the universe. You are the microcosm of the macrocosm. You are the key of the universe. You have plasma in your eyes, in your blood, in your skin, all throughout your body. You have eternal cells in your body that never die. You have enzymes in your body that never die. God is an amazing creator. And the goddess. And so what you have to do is simply claim your inheritance and understand that these things cannot in any way encroach upon your I am, your sacred I am, your sacred higher nature, and that when you go into your higher nature, you are no longer in the physical world. So people are freaked out. I just got to seeing something that I'd never seen before, and I believe it's true because I'd heard some of this before. The Tibetans, Guru Rinpoche, Padmasambhava, in the 8th century, predicted that in 2024, we would enter into the dog wood year, and the dog wood year would be world collision, world war. Had Kamala become the president or Biden, we would be in World War III with Putin right now, and we would be attacking Putin. And of course, through the excuse of the greatest money laundering nation in the world, Ukraine, all completely lies, false. Those are fascists. Those are Nazis. Literally, the party of the region is the party that was called the Nazis during World War II. So we have aligned, our Washington, D.C. is aligned with the worst Nazis still in existence to try to kill all of the communists who are British communists in Russia. This is insanity. They're the same thing. So Putin and Zelensky are two peas in a pod. And when people simply say no, then things will change. For instance, right now, 900% increase of Chinese, specifically women and oftentimes pregnant women coming across our southern border. So at the moment we close our border, how is it that the Chinese, which was a huge portion of the people coming across the southern border, these invaders, 900%? That tells you that China is faltering so bad that their people will do anything to get out of there. And it's just an indicator. So this is what's going to happen. China is going to falter, just like they had to blow up and have controlled demolition of all these buildings, literally that could hold millions, tens of millions of people out in their in the Forbidden Zone. They built cities. They built fantastic cities.
But they don't have the families or people to go into them, and they don't have enough people to maintain them. So they have to collapse them.
Yes. And remember, these are the same Chinese who killed 4 million Uyghur people, and as far as I can tell, they're still killing them. They're just hiding it, and the UN won't acknowledge it. Anyone who goes over there says and talks with anybody says, oh my gosh, it's worse than anybody could have ever imagined. This is who the Chinese are. Chinese are so stupid that as they're depopulating, because somebody has a different ism than they do, they kill them. They put them in re-education school, they call it, and most people never survive that. So this is China, and what we're having now here is this is fear-mongering of the worst type. And so when you get to hear, I could go down the list on any news site and point out to you that the lies, the fantastic lies that are just trying to get you to go into a state of fear. When you're in a state of fear, demons from hell can enter you, and they take over your body, your thinking, your feeling, your willing. And also, they use their devices to take over your entire nature. So please remember that you have complete control over any demon trying to come in your body. No demon can control you unless you invite them in. So if you tell them to get behind you, they have to get behind you. They do not have power over your I am. There's no such thing. The I am is the same exact thing as cosmic intelligence. And so the cosmic intelligence that created the universe created your I am and wishes for you to evolve to the point that you can create your own cosmos that then you can maintain in using the same type of intelligence that we see, divine intelligence, not machine intelligence. So please, don't be fearful. The concept of plasma could liberate us all from scientism. And without scientism, modern technology, because it's nothing more than a propaganda, science is a propaganda wing of this nonsense control of the demons trying to take over humans. Once that is dissolved and people realize that there's so much more beyond that, if they look in the opposite direction, instead of looking down into hell, look up into heaven, and don't try to attribute to plasma that it's a god or it is God. No, we'll be doing a show on that very soon to try to explain to you more about plasma, because plasma is the future, and it is the antidote to scientism, and it is the antidote to all the economic warfare that we see going on that attempts to annihilate the I am.